All right guys, so today we're going to be doing an under $60 challenge. We have a Martin fly rod here that is $33 and some change on Amazon. So I'm going to show you that you can catch fish with the flies that are in here with this, $30 and some change rod. And then we have a box of flies that if you decide you want to buy extra flies, this is about 20 bucks on Amazon. So all in all, this costs under $60. Depending on what state you are and how your taxes go. But I want to show you that you can get into fly fishing for cheap.
Okay.
All right, so with this, you get a reel, you get a rod, you get flies. On the back of the package, it shows you how to tie some of these knots. Although this reel already comes with all the knots tied for you. And it comes with a little instructional booklet that shows you different types of knots, lines, and here it'll tell you about tippet sizes. Anyway, it's a small informational booklet. So that's what the rod comes with. I'm going to show you how to set this up. So you're going to start with the large section of the rod. Some of the more expensive rods have dots. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to slide the medium section into the large section. All right, so some of the more expensive rods will have a dot that you can line up. This one, it's real simple. You don't need the dots anyway. You just aim down like you're aiming down a rifle and make sure that the eyelets line up with the eyelets on the next section. So the eyelets on the medium section are going to line up with the eye hole on the bigger butt section. We're going to do the same thing with the bigger rod here, or the tip of the rod here. We're going to take it and we're going to look down and we're going to line up all the eye holes. And you're going to want to kind of twist it just a little bit to seat that in there. And that's all for putting the rod together. To put the reel on, you unscrew this butt section. You have a spot right here and a spot right here that's beveled for this. Now, when you put this on, this can be set up for a right or left side reel. I like to reel with my left hand and strip line out with my left hand, so I'm going to want the reel facing this way. So I'm going to put this in here, all right, and then I'm just going to screw this up into this so that it holds the reel as such. Now, on the cheaper rods, it does have a drag system, but it's not very good, right? You have some buttons here on the back and front so that you can take this off. I wouldn't suggest messing with that too much if you don't know what you're doing. But it just snaps back into place. Unless you're like me and you get the line behind it, which is fine. It just snaps back into place like that. Okay, so you will know that notice that this says line weight 4 to 6. I will get to that in another video. Your line weight, which is this orange line here, needs to match the weight of your rod. All right, so this is an 8-foot 5/6 weight fly rod. So if you buy a 5 to 6 weight fly rod, you either need to have 5 weight or 6 weight line. This comes pre-spooled, so this will work with what they give you. So this is actually really simple. You just find the tip of it. Let me find the tip of it here. I think it's over here somewhere. All right, so after saying that was easy and then I buggered it all up, I got this all undone. So I wanted to show you, this is your floating line. Not all lines are floating, but I wanted to show you what a tapered leader is, because leader is basically regular fishing line, and then you would tie another piece of line to that thick leader. So if I hold this out, you can see that this part is thick, but as you go down, it starts to thin. This is what's called a tapered leader. All right, so as you tie on new flies, or if you lose a fly on a bush or you lose a fly on a fish, you'll start to lose some of this thin stuff. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to either go online or go to your local fly shop. I always suggest going to your local fly shop and supporting your local fly shop. But as this gets towards the thicker end, you're going to want to replace some of this thin line. Let's say that I tied a bunch of flies and all this section is gone. All right. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some of the knots that are either in this book or on the back of this, and you're going to want to tie your new line to replace this thin section. And you will keep this thicker section as a leader, and your new section that you tie on will be called tippet. So this is what's called a tapered leader. It's basically like a leader and a tippet all in one, and as you cut pieces of this off, you can replace it with new tippet. It's meant to be replaced. All right, so I am going to open up one of these flies here, which I may do off camera because they're staples, but we'll be right back. Shermack. All right, so we're back. We have our flies open here. I use my handy dandy fingernails to get the staples open. All right, so today we're going to fish with these. I'm going to try to catch one fish on each one of these. I don't know if the fish are hitting topwater quite yet, so we might not do this one. It's pretty early in the year for topwater. But we are going to start out with a black woolly bugger. I'm going to show you how to tie it on. I'm actually going to cut some of this thin stuff off. When you're throwing thicker bugs, you want to use a thicker portion of the line, probably about like that. Some of this stuff will break off on larger crappie or bluegill. So I always suggest people to take their excess line. I know some people throw it on the ground. I always tie mine up and I stick it in my bag. All right, so what you're going to do is you have your line here. All right, you're going to put your line through the eye of the woolly bugger. It doesn't matter, it'll really matter which direction you go here. All right, so you have your tag end, your top end. All right, you're going to take this tag end, make sure it's on top. It's just easier to start that way. So your tag end's on top here, your regular line's on bottom, and you want to go over 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I always put 1 extra in for good luck. All right, then you're going to take this tag end, you're going to take it back through the loop that you just created near the eye of the hook. If I can get it in here just right. All right, and then that if you cinch it up at this point, you'll want to wet the knot. This is called a clinch knot. All right, but what I'm going to do today is called an improved clinch knot, which is nothing more than taking this extra tag end that I put through this loop, and I bring it back through the loop I just created. All right, and that's called an improved clinch knot. All right, so I'm going to lick this line, wet it, so that way your fishing line doesn't burn when you pull this knot tight. That's very important, because if you don't wet this line, you can dip it in the lake. You don't have to lick it. But if you dip this in the lake and then you trim off this tag end, if you don't wet this line, the line will heat up. The friction caused from the line pulling against itself will actually burn and melt the plastic just a little bit, and you have a chance of losing your fly, and worse, a fish. So I'm going to cut this tag end off. I'm going to grab my handy dandy clippers here. This is a Gerber line driver. You don't have to have one of these. You can have just a little pair of scissors if you want. I have this because it's convenient. All right, now I showed you how to tie this. Normally you would want to thread your line through the pole before you tie this. But I wanted to show you how to tie a knot before everything was ready to go and before I went out fishing with it. So that is how you tie a knot. I'm going to get this threaded through the line. and we'll catch you on the flip side. All right, so here we have our woolly bugger. We have it threaded onto the line. All right, so before we even start casting, I want to show you a few fundamentals. All right, so when you start, you want to strip out some line so you have a little bit at your feet. All right, you always keep this line in this hand, especially when you're fishing, because when you set a hook, you don't set it and pull the rod up like you do in conventional fishing. You don't yank the rod up. You literally strip line like this to set the hook. All right, you want to make sure that your floating line is all the way outside of the last eyelet. All right, so it's going to look like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to have the line in this hand, and you're going to practice between the 10 o'clock and the 2 o'clock. 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. All right? And what it does is the weight of this line takes out the fly. So you can see the fly out there on top of the water. So when you first get these flies, they're not going to sink. Some flies are made to float, some flies are made to sink. This one can float if you put floatant on it. Like if you buy a little bit of gink, that's G-I-N-K. All right, that's one of the floatants that you can buy. That's the one I use anyway. There are multiple other kinds out there. But if you want this to always float like that, you can put a bit of gink on it, it won't sink. All right, but you just do 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. All right, if you want to get a little bit more line out there, you hold the line back here. You do 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And you can see that my line is out much further. All right. Now, when you want to catch fish, you don't want to just pick your line up and toss it back out in a different location. All right. You want to keep that in the strike zone as long as possible, just like if you're reeling in a lure. You want it to stay underwater or stay in the water as long as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a strip. So I'm going to pull that, and it looks like out there, it looks like a bug moving on top of the water. So strip, strip, pause, strip, strip, pause. You can see it's starting to sink now. Or what you can do is you can take the rod tip and you can twitch it like this. If you're close to the bank, a lot of times I will pull it like this, and I'll make it dart through the water. I'm going to get a little bit of line here. All right. Another technique is to pull in. So I'm constantly pulling in line, and when I come up for the next strip, I move the rod. That way that is always moving under the water. So we're going to do 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We'll back out. I'm going to let that sink for a few seconds. A lot of times the fish will get it when it's dropping underneath the surface. They'll see that dropping, they'll come up and grab it while it's coming down from the surface. So we're going to do 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And if this ever happens to you, don't worry. You just loop this back around. Sometimes it happens when you cast. You just loop the line back around. Now, a lot of times your reel will have drag. These used to have drags. I haven't played with this one too much, but your drag will sound a bit like this. All right, no drag like this, but your line will almost fall off freely. You flick this up and you have a drag. Now this drag is not adjustable, right? With nicer equipment comes nicer amenities, but you can catch fish on this. So I'm going to do some fishing with this. I'm going to try and catch one fish on each fly. I'm going to put the GoPro on my chest again so that you guys can see what's going on. And I'll be back. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about side casting. Side casting works the same way, and you should only really try this after you've got the basic casting down. But basically, you just get it going sideways. Same 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I may have to do this in different segments. Oh, I'll talk about that here in a second. Roll casting. I'll talk about roll casting here in a second. But we've had it was raining all last week, so I don't know how the fishing is going to be today. I might have to do this in multiple segments so that I can show catching fish, one fish with each fly. So let's talk about roll casting. So let's say you get your line out, right? And you've come in a little bit and you want to get right back out. Basically, you're going to want to make a D with your line and your pole, just like this, and then you flick. Now that didn't do it very well because I was doing it in slow motion. Basically, you want to bring your line back and then flick, and you can see that the fly got out there. You just basically practice bringing it in and then flicking it, not catching bushes like I almost did, or I may have actually. No, I didn't catch a bush. And you can see that I'm bringing mine and stripping it just like that. Face this up just a little bit. All right, so let's talk about trees. You will catch trees. It will happen. All right, you do not want to yank on the rod like this. You don't want to pull on the rod like that. You want to take your line firmly in your hand, point straight at the object you're caught on, and pull the line. You never use the rod. And if you snap your line off, you snap your line off. If you lose a fly, you lose a fly. Basically, what I want you to get in the mindset of is this is a cheap rod. It costs $33. However, most rods in the fly world, if you upgrade, cost much more of that. I have broken tips off my rods trying to get out of trees. And sometimes it happens. I'm not going to be able to show getting a fish on that particular fly now. But that's fine. It's a black woolly bugger. And in that $20 box I showed you at the beginning, there are more black woolly buggers. It's the same thing. I think the ones that come in the black box have a little orange head. So instead of just a regular woolly bugger, they'll be called an egg-sucking leech. But basically it's a woolly bugger with an orange head. So we lost a fly. It happens. It's going to happen to you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right? People that have been fishing for years will lose flies on trees and bushes. I've been fly fishing for years. All right. Now, I am not an expert fly fisherman by any means. I used a rod just like this one for probably about 20 years. I am self-taught. I did have a VHS video that I learned from, showing a little bit of my age here. All right, so let's point it down at the ground here. You can see that my line is tangled amongst all these weeds down here. So you want to try to avoid that when you're actually fishing. So if you ever hear anybody talk about line management, it's literally managing this line while it's out and this line while it's at your feet, making sure it doesn't get caught on things, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to set the rod down and we're going to tie a new fly on. And I've already showed you how to tie a fly, so I'm going to cut the video for this and save some battery power here. I will probably, well, not probably, I will pick one of the other flies out of the box that came in this. I'm gonna say we're gonna do this one right here. Okay, so I'm gonna tie this on, get my hair out of the camera. I'm gonna tie this on and we'll be back. All right, so we're back here. These flies are normally meant to be fished on the surface. However, sometimes I will wet them down and fish them subsurface. We're gonna try a bit of both today. So I'm just gonna kind of toss that out there. I'm gonna pick up the rod. I just saw a bluegill come and chase after that. Oh, we had a strike there. I hope you guys can see that. I'm gonna tilt the camera down here just a little bit. Oh, we had another strike. I was sitting there playing with the camera. A lot of times they like it just sitting there. Yeah, I'm seeing little itty bitty fish come up at it. We had a hit there. Fish on. So you can see some of the different techniques that I used here. I dangled it in the water, but the objective is to make this look like a bug under the water. All right, so we caught one on that fly. All right, so another thing is location. All right, I don't want to get too much into it in this video. I will cover it more in another video. Be like underneath trees along a shoreline. There are rocks, there are areas for bugs to fall in water. And since you're imitating a bug, really what you want to do is put your bug in a place where a natural bug would fall in the water. Ooh, I had a hit there. All right. So now we're going to try this brown sucker. Had a hit there. Feel a bit stronger. It was either a bigger bluegill or a crappie. Fish on. While you're there, second fly of the challenge. We'll try and catch a fish on this one too. Oh, you got this. Keep going. He's right there in the mud. One. There you go. Give it a couple seconds to sink here. And now we'll move it. And fish on. All right, so let me get my line off the tree up here. All right, so it's a little brown fly. Caught 2 fish on it. All right, so for the challenge, let's switch flies. That one did really well. Let's try this little this little black one right here. See how it does. So we're going to put it through here, just like we did the others. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 for good measure. Back through that hole. And take the tag in. Put it through the hole that we just created. If I can get it in there. There we go. Put the line. Trim the excess. And you can trim it a lot closer than this. I make sure the knot's good. The knot is good and tight before I trim the rest of this. And a crappie. I slowed it down there at the end because I saw something chasing it that wasn't committing. All right. And he's barely hooked too. So that's the third fly that we've caught a fish on. Let's see if we can catch one more. There's another crappie. Come here, buddy. All right, second one on the black bug. All right, so let's switch bugs here. All right, we got the floating one left. We got the floating one left. Let's see if we get anything on the floating one. I think it's too early this year for it. These will work really well to catch bluegill and all sorts of things when the weather warms up a little bit. Now, I'm gonna switch flies. So, guys, it is the very beginning of May right now. I know that my videos usually run 2 to 3 weeks behind, but it is still early yet, I think, for this business. So we've tried everything in this box. You guys didn't really get to see a good shake at the woolly bugger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up this $20 box. I'm going to open up a woolly bugger, which is basically the same thing as the thing that you would have gotten in the original kit. This one has an orange head, I think. Brand new. I know what's in this box because I've had this box previously. They updated the logo on it. This is a nicer. So any of these are going to catch fish, guys. Now, in my water, I can lose something white in about 4 inches, and black seems to work really well for me. So let's... This is the same thing that you guys got, or would get if you ordered this kit, minus the orange head. It would just be all black. It's the same thing though. But I do want to show you that it will catch fish. And then I'll move on to the $20 box. I don't know that I'll cast one of everything out of the $20 box, just because that would take a long time. And one for good measure. Through this loop. Then through this loop. So bluegill will eat these, crappie will eat these, bass will eat these. But crappie especially love them. All right, so this isn't a beaded. Some of the woolly buggers will have a bead. If you go to your local fly shop or order some online, some of them will have a bead that helps them sink a little bit faster. I let that sink for a couple seconds. And I like to drag it through the water. Oh, I had a hit there. I'm gonna cast this back out. Sometimes crappie want it a bit faster though. I think that's a log. Yep, that was a log. Oh. That is not a crappie. That's a bass. All right, so on a woolly bugger, there you go, guys. $30 fly rod from Amazon. You can buy the extra $20 box and you will catch fish. You can get into fly fishing for less than 60 bucks, guys. Did I catch a fish or a tree? I caught a tree and I lost an egg sucking leech. Happens. So, great thing about the $20 box, guys. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on flies in order to catch good sized fish. Now, a lot of times I go to my local fly shop and I'll spend anywhere from $2.50 to $8 on flies. All right, let's try a different one here. Let's try this little black guy here. All right. But if you don't feel comfortable with buying an $8 fly and losing it in a tree, then buy some cheap ones. They will all work. Now, what I want to talk to you about real quick is matching the hatch. All right, so right now I'm just going through different bugs. Let me wet this. Right now I'm just going through different bugs to show you that you can catch fish on these. Are some more effective than others? Absolutely. Black is more effective in these waters, and I have had some where red was more effective. All right. This little guy choked it. Choking it. I don't have my gloves today. They need to be washed. They smell all funky. Alright, so useful items that don't come with the kit. Forceps. You can get them for cheap at any medical store. Alright. They work great for getting fish out of hooks' mouths. Reverse that. They're great for getting hooks out of fish's mouths. All right, guys. Look at this warmouth. That is a chunky warmouth, guys. Oh, hang on, bro. See what you did to yourself? If you'd have just waited on me, you wouldn't be in this predicament now, would you? Get a grip on him here. Don't worry, I'm not gonna eat you. I just want to unhook you, show you to the camera. All right, guys, that is a warmouth. All right, let me get this. That's hilarious. He's got it all buggered around this fly here. All right, let's toss the line down here. Little black fly right here. Caught this nice little chunk of a warmouth, guys. When you're handling fish, always make sure to not only support them by the jaw, but either put your pinky up here and do the little pinky support. You can actually hurt the fish's jaw. That includes bass. Anyway, this guy is beautiful. We will let him go back in. Thanks, buddy. Oh, for pity's sake. Sometimes this happens. Caught in a tree limb. Let's see if I can swing him this way. Come here, buddy. There we go. I saw a fish hit the surface over there, and I dropped this fly right in after him, and he wanted it. He wanted to eat it. Had a hit there. All right, so other than trees, over here you will see that there's a plant right there, and just on the other side of this plant there's a little bush in the water. So this is what we're going to fish next, okay? So anywhere in the vicinity of that underwater tree, I'm going to strip this in. There's a hit there. I'm going to cast it right in next to that tree. I had to unbugger my line there, so might not have been as effective as I really wanted it to. Looky there. Right next to a branch in the water here. I just knew if I slowed that down and dangle it just a little bit, I'd catch a bluegill. A little itty bitty guy, but he works, right? We're catching fish and we're having fun. Let's do, so this is sort of like a woolly bugger. I was talking to Tom the other day. I'm still learning the names of flies myself. Apparently, I think he called this a wormy bug, rather than having the little fluffy tail that that these have right here. I guess they call that a wormy bug. So we're going to use a little wormy bug here. Another warmouth. Oh, come on now. And a hook. There we go. Oh, keep flopping. You got this. Ah, you got that. Oh. I got a hit, so I kept it at speed. Thanks, buddy. And he just ended up coming along right along with it. I knew I was going to get something here. if you guys can see that. But I'm gonna keep fishing, and hopefully you guys at least see a silhouette or something. But I want to prove to you that, well, I think I've already proven it really, but guys, you don't have to spend a whole bunch to try it out. Like, is the sport better if you spend more money in it? Yeah. The rods are much more sensitive. The rods are much more sensitive. The line is better. It shoots better. Everything is better. However, you can try it out, and it is so much fun, even with a cheap rod, guys. Now, I definitely, suggest that you support the local fly shop. I support my local fly shop. Obviously, I bought this on Amazon, but there we go. My local fly shop is JD Adams and Company. They don't have a place to, self-releasing. They don't have a place to order online, but I always suggest that you support your local fly shop. All right, I've spent quite a large amount of money on my local fly shop. It's where I usually spend my spending money. But I kind of wanted to do something to show you guys that, I've had a few people ask me, how do I get a good rod? How do I know what to look for in a good fly rod? This cheap $33 one is enough to get you started in learning. If you accidentally break it, trying to get your line out of a tree, it's fine. That's a healthy bluegill. I don't know if you guys can see the silhouette on that guy. I want to bring him up in the light here. All right. Stand right here. That's a healthy boy. Anyway, so guys, as the evening's winding down here, I'm gonna wind it up and quit rambling at you. I have a bad habit of rambling. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to try it out and you want to buy a $200 rod, go buy you an Orvis or a Temple Fork Outfitter or a Redington. They're all good brands. Sage is a great brand. If you want to spend money on it, spend money on it. All right. I just wanted to show you guys that you don't have to dump a bunch in order to get fun out. You can spend under 60 bucks, and as long as you know where to fish, like I just had another hit there. You fish next to the brush piles, you fish next to the rocks, you fish underneath the trees, underneath the bushes, and you make your bug look like a bug. Fish on. You can catch fish like this, and it's fun. I wanted to make this video, because I did have a couple people ask me, hey, I've never tried fly fishing. Hey Christy, where do I get a good rod? Just like when you're teaching your kids how to fish, do you go out and buy them Cabela's right off the bat? No, you buy them a little Zebco with a button push reel, But this can get you into fly fishing, guys. And it is so much fun.